Welcome to the Thornton Review.
The show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Robert D. Bender is currently the Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. Robert grew up in Pensacola, Florida. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration from Rhodes College and MBA from Goizueta Business School at Emory University. Robert was elected to the Escambia County Commission District 4 in 2018 and again in 2022. During that time, he obtained Certified County Commissioner and Advanced County Commissioner 1 and 2 certificates. In 2024, Robert sought the governor appointment to Escambia County Supervisor of Elections and was elected to the position by Escambia County voters during the general election that same year. He's currently working on his Florida Certified Election Professional Certification. Hi, I'm Pueschel Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. On today's show, we have Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. So, Robert, it's really nice to have you back on the show.
Great to be back.
A few times now, and I appreciate that because elections are so important. Everybody wants to know what's going on, how safe our elections are. But will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Robert Bender. I'm the Supervisor of Elections for Escambia County. I'm in my second year in this role. Previously served as a County Commissioner and actually did 6 elections in my just over the first year that I was here. So that was not on my bingo card when I took the appointment, but I'm so happy that I have the opportunity to continue to serve Escambia County in this role. And I think that we had a great result of our elections for the past year. So excited to continue to do this as well.
Well, congratulations. I really appreciate you, and I'm glad to have you as our Supervisor of Elections and the successor to David Stafford, because David Stafford was amazing.
It was.
And I feel like Escambia County made a good pick.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion with Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Hi, thank you for tuning in. We're going to begin our discussion with Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. So Robert, like I said, it's really nice to have you on. I've got a list of questions for you, so I hope I don't blindside you with anything. You don't seem like the type that gets blindsided too easily, so we'll see.
Yeah.
How secure and up-to-date is the technology Escambia County uses to maintain accurate voter rolls and prevent duplicate or fraudulent registrations?
Sure. So we do a lot of different techniques. By statute, we have to start the process by April 1st of every year for voter maintenance. So we've done that this year. We start that with the national change of address. So whenever someone moves and fills out that change of address card to the U.S. Postal Service, we take that information and run it against our system and then contact the voter. It's a way for us to contact the voter. We just don't take that information and automatically remove the voter or move them somewhere else. It gives us an opportunity to make contact with them. There's also other state statutes that we follow. So if there's a voter that has been inactive for 2 general election cycles, they haven't voted, they haven't requested a vote by mail, they haven't updated their information, that gives us an opportunity to mail them a notice and check on them. And if they don't respond to that notice, then that starts a process of removing a voter. If we get returned mail, again, another something that gets triggered and it gets us to reach out to the voter and check on them and see where they are and things like that. So, but what that does is that it moves them from an active registered voter to an inactive registered voter, and so they are in that inactive status for 2 general election cycles. So, for instance, the 2022 general election, the 2024 general election, and then anyone who was on that list prior to the 22 general election, we were able to remove them this past spring. And that's when they would then have to go re-register to be able to vote again. But if you're an inactive voter, I think we had 4,000 of those people that were inactive that showed up we had 1,000 people that were inactive that showed up at the polls and got to vote. And that's, again, they're still registered to vote, but they're inactive. I think we had about 4,000 that became active just by doing something that got them active again. So again, you hear these voter purged files and things like that. We don't just remove you automatically unless you're asked to do that or there's a death or something like that. That you do get removed automatically from that. But if you haven't been active or we get returned mail, you would still have at least 2 years before you would actually be removed from our voter rolls and not be able to vote in an election.
How do you know when someone passes away?
So we have different things. Sometimes they'll contact us, and family will contact us.
What
We
if
have
they do not?
we have to ask for a death certificate. We also get weekly reports from the Bureau of Statistics, Vital
Okay.
Statistics,
Okay.
and then also
You
Social
compare-
Security.
You compare the vital statistics.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, and then Social Security.
Yeah.
We can also get it from that. And so I am working on a way for us to get direct access to vital statistics. But in the meantime, we get that weekly report.
That would probably be the most accurate way.
It is. And they, all this is still human error. We've had the husband pass and then we get a notice that the wife passed away or something like that. And so we have to work through those things. But again, we do regular maintenance on those. So actually, since January 1st of last year, we had 4,600 voters that were removed because we got notice they were deceased. And so like I was talking earlier about if you haven't been active for 2 general election cycles, then you get moved to inactive. We had 17,639 voters that we removed this past spring because they had been inactive for 2 general election cycles. So those are all things that we do. There was some talk about the state statutes that changed in 23. It gave us, again, when I sent you that letter saying we haven't heard from you, it gives us an ability to do that final notice as opposed to just leaving you in that dormant state. But anyone who was removed to inactive as a result of that legislation is still an inactive registered voter. None of those people got removed because it hasn't been 2 general election cycles. So the 17,000 that we removed, they were already inactive prior to the 2022 general election. So those are some of the things that we do in terms of that. We continue to, we'll probably do the national change of address 1 or 2 more times before next August. And you can only start that so many days ahead of an election. So we'll start that in the spring and then we'll be inside that window. We reach out to the UOCAVA voters, those serving military and overseas voters, to make sure that they're still eligible and want to remain on that specific list. We check with people that use our address as a resident. So again, military do this a lot. That they can retain their residency here in Florida in Escambia County, even while they're out deployed, until they make a decision they're not going to come back here. And so we use that list. And so we'll send out a couple more mailers between now and next year.
So, say for instance, someone has lived in Pensacola all their lives, and they still own their house, but they move out of state, and say they buy another house in another state, and they're registered in Escambia County to vote, and they don't notify you that they're moving, but they move to a new state. Can they register to vote in that state and be registered in 2 different states? Is that possible? I know it would be illegal, but
Sure.
is it possible?
It's not illegal to be registered in 2 states. It's illegal to vote in 2 states.
So how would you find out if they voted in both
So the
states?
other thing that we started last year was that when a voter turns in their driver's license in that other state, we actually get notified through the department here that they've moved. So again,
And
gives us an
so
opportunity to contact them.
So when they run their driver's license, because they do, the poll workers run your driver's license when you go in to vote,
Right.
if you don't have your voter ID or registration.
No, well, Florida does require a photo. Again, this is something that Florida does that not all states do. We require photo and signature identification.
Okay.
So they would do that. But
That's good.
yeah,
And so when they run it through their little system, would it pop up if that person had already voted in a different state?
it would not. So when all that does is when we scan it is pull up the voter information so we can check them in. And that's why after an election, it is so important that the information I send to the state to show who voted is just as important as the results, because that's what the state will use if they do try to track someone to see if they voted somewhere else. In fact, we had a subpoena, I think they were in Texas, and we said, oh, this is just a public record. We can tell you if this person's voted or when they registered and things like that. And so other states use that information. But again, when they go to that other state and get a new driver's license, they have to surrender their Florida driver's license, and then we get notified that it's been surrendered. So that gives us an opportunity to contact them and see.
That probably doesn't happen very often.
Quite a bit. I mean, again, if you think about, I've lived in Georgia previously, and when I moved back down here, you're worried about.
Did you vote twice?
I did not vote twice, but you're worried about shutting off your power and your cable and things like that. You don't think to contact the supervisor of elections.
That's the last thing you.
That really is. And so it was a few years later that my wife and I got a card in the mail, similar to what we send out. It says, hey, do you still want to vote in Georgia? I said, no, I'm an elected official in Florida. I can't do that. And so, but we get lists from people that the state has sent us where they've found duplicate registrations in other states. We use other means. We use LexisNexis to try to verify somebody and check on that. And so again, these are all things that we have an opportunity to contact the voter to see what's going on and how they want to proceed.
So election integrity, that's a big topic for a lot of people. How do we know as voters that our vote counts and that we have fair and safe elections?
Sure. So one thing that Florida does is that we have our bureau as part of the division that vets the equipment that we're allowed to use in an election. So I can't use a piece of equipment in the election for tabulation that hasn't already been approved by the state, and they do rigorous testing on that to make sure that it passes their standards. So even though it may be used in a different state, also the version of software, things like that, are all tested by the state before we can use that.
That's what's used to count the votes.
That's what the tabulators use to count the vote, yes.
Counting accurately.
Correct. And then we run our own, and that's just the software and the equipment. We run our own logic and accuracy test on the ballots, and we've pre-filled out the ballots, and so we run those through the machine to make sure that it is tabulating votes correctly, that votes for candidate A get counted as candidate A. And that's a very robust thing. We make sure that 2 candidates don't have the same number in the same race, because then that way you don't know if it's being counted correctly. But for instance, when you go vote early or on election day, the voters here love this in Florida, that we let them put the ballot in the tabulator. right? They don't just hand it to an election worker, so they can see it put in. And if anyone's had it happen to them before, where they've made an errant mark in an oval or something like that, and it says, "Oh, you have an overvoted race," it won't accept it. It kicks it out. It gives the voter the opportunity to do it. The voter can get up to 3 ballots. So if they make another mistake, we'll take them to the express vote machine to let them do that, which would allow them to change their votes. But because we want to make sure their vote counts. But when you put that ballot in, you have an individual, one of our election workers is standing by the machine. Not only are they there to assist you, but they're also there as a physical security presence. And then they usually hold that sticker to make until your vote has counted. And so you'll see that pop up on the screen. Your vote is counted. You'll see the count go up. And so that's how a voter can make sure that their vote has been counted. Of course, in vote by mail, they can track it through our website. We have actually 2 different systems of ballot tracks, which will actually notify you when your ballot's gone out, when it's been received, and you can go on the website and it'll show when it's been received and counted. And so, of course, if it hadn't been counted, we would be in contact with that voter with the vote by mail, letting them know there's an issue and they have an opportunity to fix that. But then we do use voter intent. If there is an error reading the ballot, there's an errant mark on the ballot. The state has given us a guide on how to determine the voter intent. And so then that is reviewed by the canvassing board, which is the 3-member panel made up of a county judge, myself, and then either a county commissioner or someone designated by the county commissioners. So all those go into it.
What exactly do they do? That's voter intent. They look at the ballot and they determine what the voter intended, who the voter intended to vote on. Like, say you've got 2 presidents, you've got the R president, you've got the D president.
Right.
And that's probably who they're voting for, not the I. But the mark is in the middle, but it's closer to the R. Is that
so? It would have to be it'd have to be touching some part of the oval.
Okay.
What we see a lot though is that somebody will fill in the oval for one candidate.
Put an X on the.
Not necessarily. Well, it could be that. No, it could. That's a good example. Is that they fill in one oval, make a mistake, and they put an X through it, and put a bubble in the other one. So there we would say the machine won't read that because to them they can't tell the difference between an X and a fill in. But it'll have 2 marks in an area that it's looking for. Right. So we would look at that. We've had notes written on there. A lot of times they'll just rest their pen for a second, and just that one little ink mark. Will do it. And so we would duplicate that ballot. We have a team that duplicates the ballot so that it can be read by the tabulator, and then we have a way of tracking it so that we can always compare it back to the original.
Well, I was involved in the recount between Governor DeSantis and Andrew Gillum.
Yes, 2018.
Yes, 2018. And so I got to look at quite a few ballots.
Yes.
And I was amazed at how some people vote.
Well, well, I did the presentation in the REC earlier this spring where as part of our audit system, we use Clear Ballot. We run all the ballots through. It's an independent audit system. Tabulates it independently. And so I showed some of the discrepancies between the two, and it's usually where someone hasn't filled the oval in properly. So as I said, Clear Ballot maybe would check the peripheral a little bit more. So the tabulating system would have it as an undervote, whereas the X just barely touches the lines of the oval, and it would read it as a vote for the candidate. We had the one where they scratched through the candidate's name, and the scratch mark went through the oval, and so the tabulator counted it, whereas again, the voter intent there was not for that to count as a vote. But that, as I said, that is sitting over in Tallahassee currently as a vote for that candidate. And so we do look at all that, but again, that gets us into our auditing that we do after every election. When I was on the canvassing board in 2020, we used to do a manual audit where you'd take one race from 2 precincts and count all those. But now, because we have this automated audit, we do 100% of the ballots, 100% of the precincts, 100% of the races.
Now, what is the automated audit?
It's a machine.
Okay.
It's another machine. It's also been approved by the state.
Do you hand count audits also with people?
We don't. That's what we did before.
Right.
And that was only one race from 2 precincts. Now we audit the entire everything.
Okay.
And so we were over 99.99% on all of our elections last year. Wasn't 100%. Again, the two systems read them differently, and it gives us the opportunity to review those.
Because it's how they're filled out.
It's how they're filled
If
out.
they were all filled out exactly the same and the way they're supposed to be filled out, there would not be any discrepancies. There wouldn't be any question.
Correct.
But, I wonder why people do that. Do they not know how to fill out the ballot, or do they not care? They don't really care who wins that election, so they're just like,
part of it's education. So I expect that I'm going to probably try to do some education on that.
In elementary school with the California Achievement Test was
Right.
one of them where you had to fill in the bubble and you had to use a pencil, and our teachers were very strict about how we filled those out. So
Right.
here in Escambia County, the Escambia County School District did a great job, awesome job, couldn't do a better job on teaching people how to fill out a ballot. And that was before we even had ballots like that.
Right.
Because that was when you walked into the machine and closed the curtain behind you, and it looked like a phone booth kind of, but it had
levers
it had the levers.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to vote
Right.
a long time ago. But when I was in elementary school doing that California Achievement Test, I remember you had to fill in the bubble. It could be outside the bubble, it could be inside the bubble, and it had to be the bubble that you wanted to be your answer.
Sure.
And so anybody who went to Escambia County Public Schools knows how to vote. So it's the people who've moved in afterwards that are doing that.
Yeah. and I mean, it's you have older demographics. I mean, of course, you have people that have trouble just filling in an oval.
Yeah.
And so, but we do have a machine at every precinct that can assist voters with disabilities or that just aren't comfortable filling in an oval or something like that. That still gives them the independence of being able to complete the ballot by themselves.
Sure.
So that's at every precinct early vote site. You have some that will circle the party, and so we look for consistency in those marks when we try to determine that voter intent and things like that. So, but again, the automated ballot was something that we instituted. The equipment was purchased in 22, but we didn't put it into effect until 24. But yes, I think you would probably have more questions if I told you that it was a 100% match. When two independent systems do it, and so again they have, but we will.
It would be like if everybody filled it out properly,
right?
There would be no discrepancies whatsoever.
Correct.
It would just be cut and dry. It's definitely in that bubble.
Yes, but it will actually read the ovals and it'll list them in confidence, and so you can go to the end and we will match up where we believe the discrepancy is. We don't just take the reports. We try to locate, okay, this system read it as a vote for candidate B. The original system didn't read it as a vote because the marking is just barely in the oval or something like that. So we try to track down, we try to match where each discrepancy is. And there's really not many. I mean, that's why I said we were over 99.99% accurate. But right, and that's the thing is that it does show you that instead of just looking at that one race,
that's not enough to switch any election.
And that's the key, right? Yes. Is that even if they were that close to begin with, you're going to have your automatic recount, and that you're going to go to machine count, and then you would still do that by hand.
So if there is an actual recount called by the governor, if the governor or the president or whoever says, okay, yes, we have to have a recount of this election. Would it be done by people?
So initially, it is a machine recount. If it's still within the margin of how close it is, that 1/2 of 1%, then you what you actually look at is you look at the overvotes and the undervotes. So and that's what happened in 2020 in the city council race between Jennifer Breyer and PC Wu. It was within 5 votes after the machine recount. We went and looked at the overvotes and the undervotes. And that's where we had that case where a person had crossed through it or something like that. So we actually had 2 votes that when we showed it to Jennifer Breyer, she goes, yep, those are votes for my opponent. And she ended up only winning by 3 votes. And so yes.
I don't remember a closer race. That's probably.
That is one of the closest races, yes.
So, now, for people who have mail-in ballots, and they vote by mail and they mail it in, and then they go on election day to the poll and they vote, they hand their driver's license and they vote again. Is that possible? Are they physically capable of voting twice?
So our voter registration system, our voter database is online. We use our own MiFis to connect throughout the day. It's going to show that they've already cast their ballot.
Okay, good. When they do their driver's license.
When they do their driver's license, and that's if the ballot's been received and processed. Sometimes it goes the other way. We have told people, hey, we haven't gotten your ballot yet. You can go to the polling location and vote. And it's updated in real time. So if when we get your ballot in,
you're going to see it.
We're going to see that they've already voted, and we'll set the ballot off to the side. The other thing about those ballots is that I never open them. So if it is not open to be processed, it never gets opened. And so I have all these envelopes that for whatever reason, something like that, reason.
Because they voted in person.
Either they voted or if it's not signed. You'd be surprised how many people return a vote by mail ballot and haven't signed it. Their signatures don't match. There is a way for them to cure that. There's a cure affidavit where they can send us a picture of their driver's license or a utility bill, sign that says, yes, I returned it, and then we could open it. But if I don't get that.
I have that problem when I go in because my signature on my driver's license is real nice, neat, and pretty because I know it's a permanent document.
Right.
But my real signature that for signing for a credit card statement or signing.
We call it the Walmart signature where it's just the squiggly line across. Yeah.
So I had to redo my signature.
Well, and again, this brings up a great point though. So right now, whenever you go to the DMV and get a new driver's license, maybe yours is expired, they're giving you a new driver's license number. And so even though your address hasn't changed or nothing else has changed, I would ask voters and everyone, just go ahead and say you want to update your voter registration. Because what it'll do is it'll update it with the driver's license number. And then that way, if you call into the office and you want to request a vote by mail ballot, you have to give us your driver's license number or the last four of your social. And so if we have the new number, we'll have the new number already there. And it just allows us to do certain things that require that authentication. So, but again, one of the things that we are doing for vote by mail is that when a voter requests a vote by mail, and this is in the state of Florida, this is fairly new. You have to give me your driver's license or the last four of your social. So you do have some of the states where this is a very popular discussion right now, where they will just mail a ballot out to every registered voter. And they don't do as many in-person sites and things like that. In Florida, no. The request has to be from the voter or a certain family member, something like that. But we record all that. We record who made the request. And the other thing is it's only good for one election cycle. Until the end of 2022, it was good for two election cycles. So everyone who had requested a vote by mail in 2020 also got it for 2022. Gotcha. But now it's every election cycle. So actually that was one of the, I'd say, concerns that we ran into or.
Well, I don't agree with vote by mail. I think we need to do away with it, and I never did agree with it. Vote by mail should be for deployed military people who are overseas or maybe in a different state who cannot physically vote.
Right.
And I think it needs to go back to that.
Yeah, I mean, so we had absentee voting in the early 2000s. I remember doing that in college, where I had to sign an affidavit that I was going to be out of the county, attending college, and we had all those things. Right.
That you cannot vote in person, then of course. But people who are sitting here, and at home working and whatever they're doing, living their daily lives, there's no reason to have a mail-in ballot.
And we've made it very easy for, we have 3 ways to vote. We had 13 days of early voting for the presidential election. For the other elections, like we'll do for the primary, we'll do 8 days. That's the minimum required by statute. 8 days to Saturday before the election.
I understand early voting. We need it because could you imagine how many people are in the United States? Like how many citizens do we have in the United States?
Yeah.
Could you imagine everybody voting on election day? It would be impossible. Right. We can't do it. Well, so the early voting, that's a good idea.
It is. We actually 50% of the vote cast in November was through early voting. We had 30% on election day and then 20% vote by mail. And again, if you didn't have that, imagine the lines we would have on election day. We worked really hard to keep those down.
Yeah, the lines would just be astronomical.
Right.
There'd be no way to do it. We need to take a commercial.
Sure, of course.
The Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with a purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. You can watch the Thornton Review on our various outlets. Our website, thethorntonreview.com. On Vimeo, please follow the Thornton Review. On YouTube, please subscribe to the Thornton Review at the Thornton Review 7810. Please like our Facebook page, The Thornton Review Show, and on TV, WBQP Channel 12 and WBQP and Roku and Fire Stick. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Thank you for tuning in. We are back with Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. So, Robert, I'd like to talk about auditing. I know we've already spoken a little about auditing, but you can't talk about that enough. So let's get to the very bottom of it. Start at the very beginning. So, are routine post-education audits performed, or probably election? Now, are routine post-election audits performed to verify the accuracy of results and integrity or identify any discrepancies? And I know that we've pretty much covered that.
We've talked about it. Sure. It is required under state statute, and then it is conducted in a public meeting, so we notice it. We actually still have to put notice in I think 5 conspicuous places around the county to show that we're even hosting that, and then we fill out the report and send it to the state. So in addition, and like I said, we've scanned the ballots and we've run it, but we do conduct that post-election audit, 99.99% accurate. For the elections that we hosted in the last year, and then we fill out that report. So it is done in a public meeting. So what we do in that public meeting is that we review the 2 tabulated system results to see if they match or where there is discrepancy. When we conduct that public meeting, which is done after we've certified the results, we've already investigated, and I usually tell them the discrepancies, or even show them, this is where we feel that there was the difference between the 2 systems is in this vote here, and then we certify the audit.
When is our next election?
So the next election is the August 2026 primary, August 18th, and so for those local races. Those are the midterms. So it's the gubernatorial, and so Governor DeSantis has termed out. So we'll have a new governor. So that'll be an interesting race to watch on both sides there.
I'm going to be on the edge of my seat.
It'll be an interesting race. House District 2, Alex Andrade, he's termed out, so that's an open seat. So I know there are a number of people that have already filed for that seat. That'll be on that election.
Where do you go to find House seats?
You go to the Division of Elections. So you can go to their candidates. It is. We do have a link on our website. Okay. So if you go to escambiavotes.gov, click on candidates. One of the options further down will be for statewide and multi-county candidates, and so even though Michelle Salzman is only in Escambia County, she is it is considered
She would be
on the state.
She wouldn't be on the Escambia
She would not be on,
So I've gone to the Division of Elections exactly the way you described. It's pretty easy to figure out. You go to Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. You kind of have to filter through, and it takes a few minutes to figure out where to go.
Well,
but then
on that, I am one of the things that we're doing this year is we're creating a new website. So I'm looking. I'm really trying to go for.
It has accurate information. Once you find the information, you
Right.
get the information you need. It's just not so easy to find.
Going for simplicity and things like that. So that is one of the things we're working on in this off season.
You know who has an awesome website is Property Appraiser.
Yes.
And the Escambia County Tax Collector. They have really good websites.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the website is bad. The website, the information is good.
It's good when you get there. Yeah.
And so the Division of Elections, which is the state of Florida,
Yes.
also does not have a user-friendly website at all.
There's a lot of data in elections. Yeah.
It's harder to find what you're looking for in that one.
Right. You do have to have some idea. Right. But, you have to know that you're going to candidates. But of course, similar to ours is that when you finally find it, it'll list the candidates for governor. It'll even list the candidates for congressional seats. It'll list all of those. So yeah. Yes, because it'll have every state house, state senate, all the statewide. So again, statewide elections will have the CFO, the Commissioner of Agriculture will be on the ballots this time as well,
and then our local state house.
Your local state house,
Congress, if it's on there.
Correct.
If it's not the midterm.
Right, and then you have City of Pensacola mayor is on. Along with 2, 4, and 6, City Council 2, 4, and 6. You have ECUA races for 2 and 4.
County Commission and School Board 2 and 4. Right.
So school board is
stagger those two. Then.
So school board doesn't. ECUA runs concurrently with the county commission. The school board is 1, 2, and 3.
Interesting.
This year, but it's 2 and 4 for county commissioner.
So I guess at some point, somebody decided that they would do it that way.
Yeah, and then of course, I guess that's really about it. When we have all this on our website, we have all the different races that are up. You'll have your judges. Some of the judges will be up, and then of course your Santa Rosa Island Authority member is up every 2 years as well.
Can you register to vote on the Supervisor of Elections website?
You can.
SOE.gov.
EscambiaVotes.gov.
EscambiaVotes.gov.
Yes.
And you can go there to register to vote.
Go to register to vote. Yep.
You can go there to find out what offices you will be voting on, and the candidates.
Yes. For the local candidates, we have that qualify through us. We'll have their information on there as well.
Okay. So, security.
Yep.
How is the election process protected from fraud, tampering, and cyber threats?
Sure. Of course, that is a big part of what we do. So as I said, we do that logic and accuracy test to start before we can tabulate any results. We run through there to make sure that our software is counting the votes properly. Once that's completed, the machines are sealed. Sealed tags are recorded. That's actually the ones that were used in the LNA are actually done in the public meeting. They're sealed.
What are the chances of a cyber attack?
So our system for our voting system is not online.
Right. So zero.
So zero. I mean, there are still other things that can be done to influence, but from the result side of it is that they're not connected. They can't hack into them.
They can't hack the count as it's going through.
Correct.
They can't hack into that machine, and even though it says Trump, they're going to cover.
Right. Well, again, so we have the paper ballots to go back on, and then we run those through a system. Again, system's not online at all.
Because they go through two systems.
They go through two systems. That's part of that audit process. So
you have to hack both systems
right
the exact same way. It's impossible. You can do it.
And when we do that audit, we don't just look at see how many votes you had or I had. We look at it by method. So vote by mail, early vote, or election day. we look at it. So we do it those three and break it down that way. So so even if you had they somehow got offset between the two, we would even catch that.
Right.
And so yeah, it would be very difficult for someone to manipulate both systems.
Has there ever been a big discrepancy here in Escambia County?
Not that I'm aware of. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, David Stafford was my predecessor for 19 years, and the excellent job that he did. And that when we did that machine recount, when there were only a 5-vote difference, that 5-vote difference held. And then when we finally looked at the overvotes and the undervotes, we found two that should have been counted that hadn't been. And again, the recount is triggered by being within 0.5% of the total votes. And so that's when that gets triggered automatically. And if it is that close that it could make a difference, then that's when we'd look at all those other ballots. But otherwise, it's just you can see the results and you can see if there was a discrepancy between two systems again because we're auditing 100% of the systems.
So there were when in the 2018 recount that I was part of, there were some ballots that we could not decide who they were voting for. So those get put in that pile.
Right.
But the discrepancy, the hand count was not far from the machine count, regardless.
Right.
And it was very close here in Escambia County.
And that's the thing is the machines do allow us to do it a lot quicker.
But every single ballot in the entire county had to be hand counted. Yeah. And it was, do you remember what the percentage was? It wasn't off by much.
It wasn't off by much. But again, that was where...
because the machine couldn't read it.
Well, again, it would either, if it can't be read, then we would duplicate it to be where it would be read. But, we do the machine recount. And then if we're still within that, then we don't look at every ballot. We just look at the ones that have not been counted. So the overvotes and undervotes. So we stack those. We have 3 outstacks. When it's running through the machine, the high-speed tabulators, there are 3 outstack levels that you can do. The bottom one that we do is ones that have been counted. The next ones are ones that are overvotes or undervotes. So where if the entire ballot were blank or there was an issue with the ballot, that would go into that middle bin. And then the top bin is ones where the machine wasn't able to read them. So maybe there's a cut in the paper and it messes the timing mark and it can't read the timing marks, doesn't read it for whatever reason. That'll be outstacked there. So that's where we've seen these videos where people keep grabbing the paper and keep running them through. But it's because it hasn't been counted. So that for us, that bottom pile is what's the pile that's been counted. The other two
that
above
was a different state, by the way. That wasn't Escambia County where they kept putting it through.
Correct, but it is something that we do.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes if we don't have to duplicate a ballot, I don't want to. I want to keep that original ballot I can. So sometimes I'll change the orientation of the way it was run,
sure.
and it'll take it. And so
I have to do that with my copy machine a lot.
Right. Yeah.
If it won't copy one page, if it keeps getting jammed, I'll put it in upside down or something.
Right. And because the ballots can be read face up, face down, forward, backwards.
Wow.
So we'll try all orientations before we really say no, this can't be read, and we have to duplicate it. And so that's why you may see us running it through again, but the counter, it's the ones on the bottom are the ones that have actually been counted.
Would the machine know if that ballot had been counted previously?
It won't.
Okay.
Again, the machines have no way to track individual ballots.
Okay.
And so that's on us to make sure that we do that. But again, we have a lot of checks and balances. Through vote by mail, we look at, and again, this is part of that post election that we do. We see how many people voted by mail from precinct 1, and then from how many of them we checked in, and then look at how many we had tabulated and make sure that number matches. And then if it doesn't, we investigate as to why.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people, I would assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that a lot of people who opt to vote by mail end up not voting at all. So you might have a lot fewer votes than you had vote by mail.
Sure. So we sent out a little over 40,000 vote by mail, and then we only had a little over 35,000 get returned.
Okay. I was going to get, if I had to guess, I would have said
Yeah.
5,000 people didn't.
Yeah. And so some of that may be that it came late because
Okay.
for, again, in
Sure.
Florida,
Mhm.
we have to have your ballot in our hands by 7 p.m. on election night for it to count. The exception being those military overseas voters who do have 10 days through a federal law. But it has to be postmarked on election night. But again, there are other states where just what we call the domestic voters that are in Escambia County would, again, in order for the ballot to count, it has to be in my hands by 7 p.m. on election night. And so some of those, again, we say that you should give it at least 5 business days to get it through the U.S. Postal Service to get to us.
Sure.
And sometimes it just takes a little bit longer or something like that. Some people don't mail it. Some people decide to go and vote in person. And again, we're able to match that. So one of the things that we do when we are checking in those vote by mail ballots is to make sure that the person did request a vote by mail ballot. That's part of the security that we have in there.
Okay, so how does the Escambia County Supervisor of Elections promote voter education?
Sure. So we do a lot of outreach events. I was at a school this morning conducting their student elections, and again,
that was
yes,
fun.
it was.
Fun
It's fun.
Yeah.
There was one race that was decided by 7 votes. So, but so that's part of education that we do.
Great to have the supervisor of elections there at the school teaching the kids about real elections, and they're actually voting for each other. And I'm sure they did their little campaign speech.
Yes, I think so. But we'll even do that in Sunshine Readers is a book reading program where the kids throughout elementary school and middle school can read these books, and then they get to vote on what was their favorite book. And so we'll go into the schools, the public schools here, and conduct elections there where they get to vote for their favorite book, and then we send that for the statewide. They're filling. It's a ballot, just like we run them through the process, just like they would voting for real. And that's what I tell them. I said, tell your parents how easy it was and how quick it was that you were able to come in, fill out your ballot, and then
have the kids teach the parents
exactly fill in that bubble. So again, but I think I said part of the education we might do this year is showing people to make sure they know how to fill in that bubble. We're out at various events. We go into senior living homes and things like that to help them register or change their address. We go to the high schools and the colleges to do that, and then of course just events around town that we're invited to, where that we feel. My team did Bands on the Beach a couple weeks ago out on the beach. And just to be able to answer questions and be seen and help the public any way we can. So, but coming on here and being able to educate voters on how things work, what we're working on, if they have questions, again, the best way to contact us is through email at soe@escambiavotes.gov, or call us at 850-595-3900. And we're here to serve the people of Escambia County.
So when will you start looking for and training like poll workers and poll watchers? First off, I guess, please explain the difference between a poll worker and a poll watcher. And if I'm correct, a poll worker is actually a salaried paid employee of the Escambia County elections, but the watcher is just a volunteer that gets training. So if you can explain.
So we have over 600 election workers in Escambia County.
Okay. So that's kind of a big number.
That's a big number. As I say, it is your neighbor.
Do they only work during elections at the polls?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what their job is.
Their job, and so as I say, it is your neighbor. It is someone you go to church with. Actually, it was one of the teachers at the school this morning. He was an election worker for us, and I say these are the people that you know and trust, that you see around your community, that are helping watch us, but are also there to represent the voters to make sure everything's done properly.
They go through specific training geared to what they're like. One person is running the identification.
Correct.
Can you explain the different jobs that they
we start with a poll deputy. That's the person that's usually outside, making sure there's order outside, probably welcoming you in, telling you where to go. Then you have our EVID operator who is checking people in. They'll issue that ballot slip on election day, or
look at the ID.
they check the ID.
They make sure the signatures match.
Yes.
I know that all too well.
Yes. And actually, we've just got new equipment. Our other one was aging out, and so but we determined that people like signing on those pads, and we were able to